Picture this. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. The nursery is completely dark, except for that tiny nightlight. You're an exhausted first-time parent, standing right over the bassinet, just staring down at your sleeping newborn. And instead of that peaceful, completely silent slumber you were expecting, you hear it.
You hear the snorting, the stuffiness. Honestly, it sounds exactly like they have a terrible cold, right? Your mind starts racing. You start to panic, wondering how they're going to breathe properly and if you need to grab the car keys and rush to the doctor. Look, if you've been absolutely terrified by your baby's noisy nighttime breathing, you are definitely not alone. It's literally one of the most common fears for new parents.
But right now, I want you to just take a deep breath because I'm about to give you the absolute best news you'll hear all day. If your baby is otherwise acting completely fine, they aren't sick. That dramatic, highly congested sound, it's totally normal. They are very likely perfectly healthy.
Now you're probably wondering how on earth that much noise can possibly be normal. The reason is actually fascinating. Let's look at the anatomy of a tiny nose and exactly why it ends up sounding so incredibly loud.
Just think about the actual size of a newborn's face for a second. Their nasal passages are incredibly tiny. Much smaller than an adult's. It's a really tight space in there. And because these airways are so narrow, even a microscopic amount of everyday stuff, we're talking a little bit of normal mucus, maybe some dried milk, or just everyday nasal secretions, creates a pretty major obstacle for the air trying to pass through. It essentially acts like a natural acoustic amplifier, making extremely minor things sound like massive blockages.
Here's what surprises many parents. Newborns are what pediatricians call obligate nose breathers. This basically means they rely almost entirely on their noses to breathe rather than their mouths, especially when they're feeding. So, because they're funneling all of their oxygen through those unbelievably tiny passages, even the absolute slightest bit of buildup sounds incredibly dramatic to us. To you, it sounds like severe congestion, but to a pediatrician, it just sounds like a baby. And most parents don't realize this, your newborn's airway is actually working overtime right now. Think about it. They just spent 9 months in a warm, fluid-filled environment, and now they're suddenly adapting to the outside world. Their tiny little noses are constantly learning to handle dry indoor air, microscopic dust particles, sudden changes in temperature, and of course, their body's own normal mucus production. All of that environmental adaptation naturally contributes to that super noisy breathing.
Okay, let's dive into this. It is absolutely vital to know the difference between what's perfectly normal and what you should actually consider a warning sign, so you know exactly when to pick up the phone.
So if you're hearing things like snorting, snuffling, high-pitched whistling, grunting, or just occasional loud breathing, breathe easy. These sounds are completely normal. And yes, I know they can be absolutely startling when they echo through a totally quiet house in the middle of the night, but noise alone doesn't necessarily mean illness. It really just means air is moving through a very small, slightly moist tube.
So, the crucial point is this. A noisy baby is not always a sick baby. I really want you to remember that phrase the next time you're hovering over the crib at 2 in the morning. In almost all cases, those strange, sometimes scary sounds are simply the result of tiny nasal passages doing exactly what they're supposed to do.
And this brilliantly illustrates the exact difference. Healthcare professionals always look at the whole picture, not just the sound. You definitely want to contact your pediatrician if the noise is accompanied by true signs of distress. We're talking about real difficulty breathing, fast or visibly labored breathing, poor feeding, a fever, or bluish lips or skin. If any of those signs are present, call the doctor right away. But if it's just the normal snuffles and little whistles, you're doing great. Let's move to and see how this builds into actionable steps you can actually take to help clear the air. There are several evidence-based things you can do right now to make your baby way more comfortable.
You can definitely help improve the air quality for those tiny lungs. Step 1, and this is absolutely crucial, always keep the baby's environment completely smoke-free. Step 2, strictly avoid using strong fragrances, perfumes, or harsh cleaning chemicals anywhere near the nursery, because these can really irritate those sensitive airways. And step 3, you might want to use a cool mist humidifier in their room to combat that dry air. Just make sure you double-check with your pediatrician first to see if they recommend it. So, the very next time you hear your baby sounding like a tiny, congested bulldog in the middle of the night, take a breath before you panic. Think back to our little anatomy lesson. Sometimes the sound is just so much scarier than the reality, and it's really just a normal, completely temporary part of being a newborn. Before we wrap up this explainer, I'd absolutely love to hear from you. What is the strangest sound your newborn has ever made while sleeping? Did they whistle, maybe grunt like a little piglet? Let me know.
And remember, you've got this. Keep seeking out that evidence-based guidance, try to worry just a little less, and please, try to get some sleep tonight.